Hey everybody, it's Michelle 360 and we are in the parking lot at the grocery store back there to talk about RM's new album. But before I do that, follow up on my last video. So my last video talked about the situation with Suga being pulled over for driving under the influence or driving while intoxicated. I'm not sure exactly the Korean definition of the violation, but I need to tell you guys about that video. Number one, everything I said felt really good. I don't feel like I have to take anything back because everything I said at the time was the most recent and most accurate information. However, new information has come out. Apparently GTBC, which is the news organization that reported most of the news regarding that, they put out the wrong CCTV footage. It turns out he was on like a kick scooter, which is crazy that they would take the chance on getting themselves open to a defamation lawsuit like this by putting the wrong footage. Apparently the blood alcohol that was reported was like a made-up number. A lot of inaccuracies there. So while I do stand on everything that I said, because given the information that was provided to us by a news organization, my opinions still stand. I still feel the same, but you know, apparently these people are looking to be in a defamation lawsuit with Hybe, and I'm not gonna let their ass drag me into it. So it looks like he was still operating a kick scooter intoxicated, which is still not a good idea. You still should try to be sober because you might kick scoot yourself right into the middle of that fucking road and get ran over. So don't recommend doing that. But you know, I'm a lady of values, and so in order to be demure, in order to be mindful, I like to come on here and tell you guys when I'm wrong, and I've always done that. I very rarely delete videos because I stand on my shit. I remember when I was on here crying about Black Lives Matter and talking about BTS, and people left me horrible messages, and then I did a follow-up apology and I left both videos up. You know why? Because I'm a classy bitch. Because I'm a bitch who stands by her words. I'm not one of those throw the rock, hide your hand bitches. I acknowledge my past, what I do, what I did. So I say all that to say, it seems like things were wildly misrepresented by a news organization, and they should take care of that shit, because who's gonna believe you when you want to tell the truth if you're known for telling lies? That's kind of fucked up. I don't want that reputation for myself, so that's why I like to tell people when I'm wrong. And hello, Sarah, it's nice to see you. But no, that's not what we're here for. But I felt like it was very important to put that out there because you guys, I lost like 4 subscribers the day I made that video, which is fucking wild because I was pretty sure I did not have any armies still watching my channel. So that's crazy. That's really wild that there were enough armies still watching me after all of the discussions we've had over the years, enough to be like, this is the last straw. I'm not watching this bitch anymore. But if there's still any armies watching, cuckoo-ca-choo, hey ladies. But yeah, let's get back to the title of this video. Welcome back to the bias list. Because if you guys don't know, me and RM had been having problems. From the very beginning of BTS, RM had always been my bias. Why? I liked the tone of his voice. I enjoyed his rapping. I appreciated his grasp of the English language. I appreciated his more kind of artsy-fartsy aesthetic in a lot of things. And so just in terms of like the kind of things I look for in a celebrity that I want to stand, he fit the bill. He fit the aesthetic. But things had started to kind of get a little, how do I put this? A little disappointing, a little underwhelming in the actual music content portion of his oeuvre. I know part of it is because him being the leader of BTS, he has a lot of pressure to ensure that whatever direction the group is taking, it is in a very commercially successful direction. And that meant permission to dance. And I personally, I could not jive with that. But it wasn't just permission to dance. That would be wrong for me to blame it on that. It was a combination of like, the raps really weren't hitting the way that they used to. I felt like his rap voice had gotten a bit stale. I have always had problems with his English accent because he adopts a kind of like, I I don't want to say hood, but definitely a black scent, which is very strange because according to him, he learned English watching Friends. And as an American who hardly ever watched Friends, I could tell you the reason I didn't watch Friends is because Friends didn't have hardly any black people on that show. I think they had one season where Ross dated a black girl, and she was like the most broadly American accented black girl they could find. So I don't know how you'd pick up a black scent from watching Friends, but you know, I'm pretty sure he picked up the black scent from listening to hip hop, which, you know, no shade, no harm, no foul, but his black scent had started to really grind my gears when he would be rapping, especially when he would rap in English a lot. And so I was having a really hard time being able to connect with Rapmon, if you will. Like, I was really beginning to think, like, we're obviously musically we're two different people, whereas we used to be very in sync. I remember exactly the moment that I decided that Rapmon was my bias. It was during the Dark and Wild promotions. It used to be, I don't know if they do this anymore just because I haven't paid attention much, but it used to be that the intro to every album was done by a different member of the team. And Dark and Wild was Rapmon's intro, and his intro was What Am I to You? And I remember hearing that and being like, oh, this is that girl. This is the one. And because of that, I was like, okay, I think that me and this individual we're on an equal playing field in terms of what we appreciate in music. And so I couldn't help but like carry on a lot of really good feelings about RM, because I'm like, okay, this is where we started. I wonder where we're heading with this, but this is good signs. These are all good things. And, you know, he had Love, which was during the Love Yourself book of music. I really, really liked that song. That was his solo song. I liked some of his raps in some of the other songs. Like, I liked what he said in Pied Piper. You know, there's some good things out there, but for the most part, it really did feel like he was being out-rapped by Suga, and in some cases, even J-Hope. And I'm like, wow, you let a dancer out-rap you? What the fuck, bro? So I didn't think that it was going to be a thing that we would continue to have kind of a favorite relationship. He wasn't going to be my bias. And then Indigo came out, and I will be perfectly honest with you. I did an entire review for Indigo. If you want to see it, it's fairly long. I went through every single song. I bought the album. I did all the things, but I was like, maybe he's not who I thought he was. Not in terms of like knowing him as a person, but in terms of like how far he could spread his talent, how much depth he had as a musician. Like, maybe not, because I found a lot of Indigo very, very missing the mark. Like, it just seemed like there were good intentions behind every song. He definitely was working with some people that he found inspiration from, and I could tell that there was a lot of thought put both into the packaging and into the music, but I just felt like it wasn't quite gelling the way it should. And I talked about that. And even when I did my K-pop 30 albums of 2023 that I listened to, his was one of them on there, and I said all my opinions still stand. There were like maybe 3 or 4 good songs, but the rest of it was kind of middling, kind of boring, really not what I was looking for. And so I was pretty sure I was going to have to put my bias on Rapmon to bed. But then he came out with RPWP, and honestly, I'm surprised it took me this long to talk about it, because I loved that album from the very first listen. Like, from the very first listen, I was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I came for. Cue Rihanna, lightning strikes every time she moves. Like, seriously, this is what I came for. And I was so happy to have my faith restored, to have my bias list brought back to correct, because I always saw it for Rapmon. Like I said, he was my first bias in BTS, even though the first time I encountered his look, he had the afro permed high top, which was, that was something. But he was my bias, and so I was really happy that he kind of turned the tide around. The only thing that was disappointing was the fact that, like, this came out while he was in the military, and all the promotions, everything kind of associated with this rollout was all like pre-taped and stuff. So there were no opportunities for us to get like him going out and doing shows and doing this music and really digging into the performance aspect of this, especially because in listening to this album, I think a lot of this album could be performed live. Like, I could absolutely see him have a band behind them while performing these songs. So yeah, that was the only really disappointing thing about all this. But outside of that, like, I loved this comeback. I thought this was terrific. I thought that he also picked a really good time to put this out. Now, it is unfortunate, like I said, he's in the military, so in terms of promotions, everything was pre-taped, everything else, but he put this music out at a time where nothing about this music would really be related to group promotions, and that to me is important. I think it has been difficult trying to do solo stuff when you have an entire group that people are always questioning you, like, does your solo stuff mean you're leaving the group? Does your solo stuff mean you're unhappy with the group sound? Does the solo stuff mean that you don't like the group's direction? There is no group stuff to compete with here. You know, everything has been solo for a while now, and so definitely there's no group stuff to compete with. There's no separation talk because he's in a situation where everyone understands they have renewed their contracts. He's in the military, so you not seeing him with the rest of the group has nothing to do with separation. It has everything to do with fulfilling his civic obligation. So I just think that timing wise, it was a really good time to put something like this out, because honestly, if he was to put out something like this in the midst of like BTS group activities, I'd be like, how can you go out on stage and do Permission to Dance when you have a whole project like this? Like, these feel like these are two different personas, and I personally wouldn't want to go to a concert with these two personas in the room. But that's just because I have a strong dislike of Permission to Dance, guys. This is not new information. Anyone who's been watching my channel for any length of time knows I had a really hard time even coming to like common terms with Dynamite because it was so overplayed here in the United States. I finally kind of warmed up to Butter a little bit, but Permission to Dance I have always hated. From the very first moment I heard it to the last time I heard it, I fucking hate Permission to Dance. So I think I've spent enough time kind of doing the preamble for talking about this album, and we're going to talk about this album for real, because I have notes, baby. I have notes. So we're going to talk about this album. And I just want to give a shout out again to all the people who have spent their lives listening to me ramble about BTS stuff. Because again, like I said, any armies that are still here, I'm shocked because I have not always had the most favorable things to say, and I'm still going to be very honest in my opinions about this album. But for the people who don't mind me being honest and maybe feel like in some ways I'm saying what they would like to say, thank you for being here. I really appreciate that. So let's keep going. Okay, so track number 1 is just an intro. It's called Right Place, Wrong Person, in case you're wondering what RPWP stands for. It stands for Right Place, Wrong Person. And I watched an unboxing of the album, and I thought it was funny because I remember the first time I saw the cover for this album, well, at least like the cover that's on Spotify, I'm like, why is Ratman hanging out with all these white people? What's going on here? And then it made sense. Right place, wrong person. Like, he's basically saying, like, out of this group of people, I'm the thing that doesn't fit in. It's not them. They're all doing what they're supposed to do, but like, why the fuck am I here? So I thought that was really interesting. Also because in a lot of ways, I think it also speaks to another layer, which I don't know if it's intended or not, but you know, let me talk to you, friends who follow AMBW. I'm talking to you. Feel shame because I'm talking to you. It's never going to be you, girl. It's never going to be you, girl. All of you girls out there who are like, my favorite Korean idol loves black girls, and you know, maybe one day he's going to pick one of us. It's never going to be you, girl. Has it ever been? In the history of this thing, has it ever been? There may have been people who dated, there may have been people who fucked around, one night stands, friends with benefits, but has it ever been us at the end of the day when it's time to put a ring on the finger? When it's time to have the babies? No, it's never us. And I don't say that because I feel like Ratman's trying to tell the black girls to get over themselves. I'm saying it in that part of him being an outcast in a room full of white people is the fact that, you know, he's a Korean man and his Korean identity is a fundamental part of him. And so, yeah, he's operating in spaces where he's not the majority, because he has an identity that is strongly linked to going back home. So, you know, maybe take that for what it is. Again, I'm not saying that's the statement he's making. I'm making the statement about Black Girl Get Real. But I'm just saying, like, you know, part of being outcast is BTS and the members, not just him, spend a lot of time coming to America, going to Europe, and being interviewed by white people all the time who are like, you know, you speak really good English for somebody who's not from here, but you don't speak great English, therefore you're hard for me to understand. You know, they spend a lot of time having interviewers asking them really stupid questions because they aren't really interested in BTS to begin with. They're interested in getting the fans to watch the interview. So they do no time to research. They spend no time trying to think of something interesting to ask. There's no real content there. And so no matter how well RM speaks English, no matter how hard the other members work to speak English, you know, the interest that Western media has in BTS is extremely shallow. Let us not forget, I believe it was the Hollywood Reporter who did that horrible, stupid article where the interviewer basically was like, I read a magazine and perused Wikipedia and then decided to interview them, and it turns out I know nothing about them. It's like, no shit, sis. So, like, I find it interesting that was the concept photo direction, was him amongst a bunch of people who are not like him. I liked that a lot, but let's start here. So my notes for Right Place, Wrong Person were: sounds like a time traveler who crash landed, lots of ambient sounds, but very few real lyrics except for feeling high on a forest fire. And I liked the synth sound. So when you first start Right Place, Wrong Person, you get an intro track. In this intro track, it's very kind of like, you can hear the synthy strains of music, but you can hear a lot of voices in the background, people talking, and somebody being like, fuck, shit, fuck. And it's like, it sounds like somebody who crash landed and then all of a sudden their rocket ship doesn't work anymore and they're like, damn it, you know, I gotta get out of here. I'm not supposed to be here, basically. And so I appreciated that because it felt kind of like we were establishing a theme here. But, you know, Right Place, Wrong Person, saying, you know, hey, me being here, this place is not at fault, but I'm not supposed to be here. I've landed in the wrong position. So I thought that was a really nice way to open it and establish kind of what we're here and what we're doing. So the next song was Nuts, and Nuts has a music video. There's actually, I want to say, 3 or 4 music videos associated with this particular album. There's Nuts, there's Groin, there's Domodachi, there's Lost, there's Come Back to Me. So 5 at least. And I think those might be the only 5. I could be wrong. I'll correct myself as we go along. But let's keep going. So Nuts has this like studio music video where basically he's starting in a chair in front of like the mixing board, and then he slowly starts to make his way down some stairs and into the recording studio part where like the microphones and the instruments and stuff are, and it's him basically doing a lip sync performance of the song Nuts. And I liked the way that Nuts sounds. Like, going off of the intro, Right Place, Wrong Person, you wouldn't expect Nuts to sound the way it does, but it's like it's that sound. And I really dug it. I liked how kind of, you know, Bootsy Collin-ish, 70s funk sounding it is. I really appreciated that, which I've known that RM has always appreciated, like 70s music, because he talks about like in Earth, Wind and Fire and stuff like that, so that was really cool. But then also the song, when you get into the lyrics, the beginning of the song, he's talking about like, you know, this girl really can't fuck. And I thought it was funny just the fact that he's saying that, because again, divorcing this from the image of the entire group of BTS, I really don't think you're ever going to get a BTS group song where the members are going to talk about how well the women in their life can fuck their brains out. Like, I don't think that Hybe would be interested in marketing something like that, you dig? But, you know, oh, that's my Apple Watch talking. But we've had Jungkook talking about fucking all night. We've had other members in their solo stuff talking about how much they like to enjoy intimacy with people. So I thought it was really funny for him, like right away, the song is called Nuts, we're talking about, you know, busting a nut. So the song is, you know, him talking about how this person is like really good at fucking, and he really enjoys fucking this person, but then talks about like really fucking is all there is. Like there's no real relationship there. But you know, it's cool because love is for freaks, love is for suckers, you know. People don't really fall in love. Also, you know, we gaslight each other. Like we have the kind of relationship where, yeah, I like you and all, but at the same time, like you travel a lot, so it wouldn't be smart for us to have a real relationship right now. Or, you know, I make a lot of money, I see a lot of people, I just don't want you to have expectations that are unfair because I'm in this music game. I don't know if I can necessarily be the man you need me to be all the time. So both of them are gaslighting each other. So let's just forget about the gaslighting, and then the song changes and it's got this kind of guitar-y sound, and all of a sudden it sounds like orgasm, and all we're talking about at that part of the song is like you and me. Let's just forget all of the relationship talk. Let's just keep ourselves within the flow of this orgasmic state. Let's stay right here where all of us are really feeling good, really feeling sensual. Let's focus on the positive right now. But then the orgasm fades away, and then all of a sudden it's just like, I fucking hate you, but I hate you because I hate who I was in this relationship. I hate that I have these bad memories of us. I hate that we never really gave it a chance, and that we continued to lie to ourselves about what this was. And you know, I wasted so much time either not taking it seriously or taking it too seriously, and you know, I focused on the wrong thing, and it was nuts of me to allow this to go on for so long. Like, you captured most of my 20s with me going back and forth and us continuing to play this game. And like, you know what? I'm not even mad at you because I was doing bad things too, but like, fuck, wasted so much time. And towards the end, where he's having this revelation, the song changes again. So there's 3 acts in this song. So there's the, you know, we both know it's kind of toxic, but we're both having a lot of fun, this is very sexy, to the, okay, we're having orgasms, it's really hot, everything is really cool, to the horror chanting sound, ha, 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 like horror chanting sounds in the back, and like, I shouldn't have fucking done this, we never should have fucking done this, you know, I hate what it all devolved into. Because everything that was toxic at the beginning of this relationship, it was still there at the end. It just got to be to the point where like it was too big for us to ignore at this point in the game. And I really, really loved this song structure. This might be one of my favorite songs on the entire album, only because, one, it does remind me of What Am I to You, if you remember that from the intro to Dark and Wild, in terms of like the stages of the relationship. So I thought it was a nice callback to that. But what I also really liked about this is that he really did a good job of using the backing track to move us through those stages and to explain those lyrics. So even if you didn't really understand the song or you didn't look up the lyrics, you could still like feel the vibe. And I like that a lot. So yeah, I put on here that the music video, live performance, I wrote that. I also said that he talks about this song marking his 20s. And I don't know if he had already turned 30 when he was recording this or not, but Indigo also talked about him coming out of his 20s and into his 30s. And a lot of Rapmon's 20s, most of his 20s, was him being involved in BTS. And I think if you're somebody who has a more negative spin on things, or if you're somebody who infers things that aren't necessarily said, I could see him framing this song to be not about a person particularly, but about his struggle with celebrity. Because, you know, talking about me making money, everything just being a good time. In the beginning, there's some toxic stuff, but we'll ignore it. And then all of a sudden, everything is super great and super orgasmic, and we're just too happy to be here. And then kind of the fall off of, you know, all that stuff now is the toxic stuff. You could very much transfer that into his feelings about his celebrity journey as a member of BTS. But I don't want to put that on him, because apparently Hyde came out with a statement telling people what all the songs' meanings were, and at no point did they link any of these songs to his status as a celebrity. So I don't want to throw that on him either, just like I don't want to throw on him the whole thing about, you know, black girls, don't get your hopes up. But I'm just saying, like, you could read it 2 ways. You could read it about an actual intimate relationship with fans and celebrity, or you could read it as like a very toxic relationship that he went through in his 20s that he's glad is over. So I like that. I like that there's depth there. Okay, the next song is Out of Love, and I read the lyrics. I read the lyrics both on Rap Genius, which Rap Genius was not helpful at all with trying to discuss this album. The Korean lyrics on Rap Genius were not translated. A lot of the times the people who were giving their meanings for stuff in the songs didn't know what the fuck they were talking about and couldn't even decide whether or not they thought the meaning was accurate. It was just really tough. So I just want to put that out there. I looked at the lyrics before I started talking about these things, but what I read it as, based on how I interpreted things, was this is really a diss track to the super fans who think they know what's best for RM. And I was like, okay, bitch, is this play about us? I feel like you're talking to me, especially because like the video right before this one, I was giving Suga advice. So yeah, like, bitch, are you talking about me? But you know, even if he is talking about me, I don't mind, because, you know, honestly, I would deserve it. You know, all of us think that we know what's best for our idols. All of us think that if they had us in their corner, we could advise their life. Like, he talks about smoking, for instance, in the song. And like, yeah, I'm smoking, so what? Leave me alone, get off my back. He is a grown man. He's a man in his 30s. If he wants to light a cigarette, that's his business, that's his lung health. We can't make him stop that. And he is aware that it's not a healthy habit. But you know, I think one of the things that he understands that I don't think we give celebrities enough credit for is like, yes, they understand that because of the parasocial relationships we have and the way our parasocial relationships link to consumerism, we do feel like we have a say in what they do, because we do want the best for them. We want the best for them so they can continue to deliver products to us. We don't want the best for them because we just like them as people, and if we never saw them again, we'd be fine as long as we knew they were living a healthy life. No, for a lot of people out there, it is, I need you to be in your top shape. I need you to be in the best condition so you can give me the deliverables, the album, the magazine shoots, the performances, the tours, all that stuff. And so I get where he's coming from in terms of being like, okay, well, you don't know me. And in the song, he's like, you don't know me. You know, you really don't. You know what I've given to you in terms of like lives and Instagram and all this stuff, but you really don't know me. And because you don't know me, kindly fuck off. Like, if you want to fuck me, fine. If you want to come to my concert, fine. If you want to buy my albums, fine. But don't think that what we have is actual love. What we have is a relationship, true enough, but is a relationship of mutual convenience. And so, like, maybe don't put your expectations on me and then claim that, oh, well, I'm only saying this out of love and concern. No, you don't know me, and you really don't love me because you don't know me. And so you can keep your concerns to yourself. So I put on here that I really liked the industrial sound of the song, and has this like kind of manipulated vocal that in the background is like, my life is out of love. It reminded me very much of like Portishead songs in terms of the industrial vibe. And so this was my note that I put on here. Real talk, we can have concerns about idols and the choices they make in their personal and professional lives, but we don't really understand them enough to be that piece of advice, and they will never fuck us. So really, even if what we say is out of love, it's not a real emotion or a shared emotion. Also, RM makes a statement in this song, which I know he doesn't pay attention to my videos ever, because like, how would he? Like, literally, it's like finding a grain of sand on the beach. Bitch, when will he ever? But he mentions about him changing his flow and not being the RM we used to know. And that was one of the things I was going to mention off the top, is that he does do a lot to change the way that he raps in this album, and it made me so happy, because one of the big criticisms I've had for a while is that like, it's gotten to where I feel like Suga plays with his flow a lot. J-Hope is constantly changing his flow out a lot, but it seemed like Rapmon was rapping a lot in the same styles he has been kind of since the beginning. But he's making it a point in this release, it seemed, to really try some different stuff. And on this album, he does a lot. His singing is a lot more confident. He does a lot more singing on this album. His rapping, he changes out his flow a lot. He does a lot of little different things. I mean, voice still sounds the same because that is literally the sound of his voice. He's not putting on a rap voice. And, you know, there are still some issues throughout this entire project with him utilizing the black scent, and sometimes the English just not making any sense. Like, there are times when the English feels like there are a couple of words missing that would make this make more sense, but because he's trying to put on like a rapper accent, it's not quite there. But yeah, I think he has been hearing from a lot of people that, you know, we welcome the growth, we welcome the diversity, we welcome him doing something different than what he's given us in the past. And I really like that he addressed that here. So yeah, even though he's not going to necessarily be listening to our advice, he does hear what we say in some way or another, and taking notes and maybe switching things up. And who knows, maybe even though he doesn't have to listen to our criticisms, maybe us saying that we would like to hear different sounds from him gives him the confidence to try different sounds, because he knows there is an audience that would welcome that. So, you know, good and bad, good and bad. Let's keep going. The next song is Domodachi, which has a music video, which I think you need to watch the music video. Normally, I'm not a big music video person because I like music for the sound of music for the most part. But this music video, I think, really helped me understand the song more, because the explanation that Hybe gave for this song was, it is a song about someone liking to dance. Just like, no, absolutely the fuck not. That's not what this is about. So, I interpret it as RM is trying to have a good time. He's trying to find a way to relax. But even him going to the club with his friends don't let him relax. They're like, hey, take a picture. Hey, you can get us into VIP. Hey, we can get more expensive drinks. Like, even though he knows his friends care for him and he knows his friends want the best for him, even his friends want something from him. So even though he's going to the club to relax, to dance, to have a good time, he's still kind of working, because, you know, if you're friends with RM and a beautiful girl comes up to you and wants to hang with you in exchange for taking a picture with RM, it might be very difficult for you to say, no, my friend's trying to chill right now. He doesn't want to be bothered with it. And so he talks about that. He also talks about how, you know, as he's growing up, he's really trying to like do his own thing. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate him letting us into that aspect of things, because I really think that when we think about the close friends of celebrities, we always assume that the way that celebrities have close friends is that they pick the people who don't ask anything of them. Like, they pick the people who don't want you to charter the flight, and the people who don't want you to pay for dinner, and the people who A, B, C, and D. And it's nice for him to say, like, yeah, I mean, that would be nice if they didn't ask for those things, but I understand that's just part of the territory. It would be weird if my friends didn't necessarily want me to take pictures or go fun places because they're my friends. Like, this is solely a non sequitur. It has nothing to do with RM. This is just a story of a different celebrity. I remember Oprah saying that one of the best things about her becoming a billionaire was that she was able to use her money to make her friends' dreams come true. She was able to use her money to help her friends go shop at Louis Vuitton, or help her friends shop at Hermes, or, you know, to take her friends' kids on trips and help them get educations. But that, you know, she didn't expect her friends to sit by and watch her be ultra rich and have all this cool shit, and them like struggling to pay the rent or struggling to do other things. And, you know, also part of paying for these things is that if my friends need help, like if they legitimately need somebody to help them pay the mortgage, or to help their kids get to school, or to help them buy a car because their car broke down, I'd rather be the one to give freely to my friends than have them betray me by going to the press and spreading lies about me or telling my secrets to get paid. Because it will make people resentful to watch you live the highest of heights and they get nothing out of it. Like, when they meet up with you, we go to the Duck Bucky stand, but when you see me on Instagram, I'm eating caviar at a 3 Michelin star restaurant. No, I want to share these things with you. And yeah, there are going to be times when in sharing these things with you, you're going to do something that's kind of pissed me off, but then we're going to go to a place like Dubai, which he mentions here, going to Saudi Arabia. We're going to go to a place like Dubai, and we're going to party where the paparazzi are not allowed to take our picture, and we're going to really have a good time there. But yeah, sometimes it kind of is exhausting being the celebrity friend of the bunch, because there's things I get asked that the rest of the friends don't get asked. But you know what? My friends really are legitimately there for me. And so even though shit I don't necessarily want to do, at the same time, my friends having known me and my friends really being my friends, they know how to like pull me out when I get overwhelmed. And that's where the music video I think is important, because the music video is two little boys riding their bicycles up to a tunnel, and then all of a sudden there's a drummer being introduced. And when the drummer is introduced, all of a sudden, one of the little boys is pulled off his bicycle and pulled into this tunnel and goes through this journey where everything is kind of crazy, everything's a little absurdist, like life is happening, but he's in the tunnel with life happening all around him, and he has no interaction with that. But one of his friends manages to pull him away from kind of all of the noise and the pressure and everything else, and pushes him over the fence, and he's able to get back on his bike with his other friend who's waiting for him and ride off in the distance. And so yeah, you know, there's a lot to the life that he leads. Like there's one scene in the music video where it's like, it looks like people are arguing in the streets, like there's civil unrest going on, but he can't either see it or be a part of it because he's stuck in this tunnel. And you know, that's the thing. When people were mad that BTS doesn't make statements about every fucking thing that happens in the world, if they don't make a statement about Gaza, if they don't make a statement about what's going on in the Congo, if they don't make a statement about any of these things, people are like, well, you know, you have money and you have a voice that could be used, you need to use it. But it's like, right now, my life is this big because my life is promoting this next album. My life is getting ready for this tour. My life is the other 6 men who comprise this group and us trying to get what's going on there. And yes, this is happening around me, and I would love to be more involved with this, but you know, in a way I can't, because my life is this right now. And if I try to get out of this, then my focus goes elsewhere and this falls apart. So this is one of the videos I really think you need to watch. Also, Little Sims is on this song, and she's okay. I really like that the last line she delivers in her verse is in Korean. I thought that was really cool. But her verse, honestly, it could have, she could have been there, she could have not been there. Her verse is basically like, you know, I go up for my friends, you know, they're my day ones. I ride for my friends. You pay me, you pay them. That kind of thing, which matched with what he was saying, but definitely kind of in a more, I would say in a more surface, shallow way than what he was saying. Also, this song's instrumental. I love the song's instrumental. It's very much a very kind of modal jazz energy, you know, and then like in the chorus, it's this guy chanting in Japanese about like, let's dance, we need to dance. So it's an interesting song. It's very chaotic sounding, very arty sounding. But yeah, I thought it was really cool that he's like, I understand that as a celebrity friend, this is just how it's gonna be. So that was cool. Next is an interlude that if you look at the track list in English, the interlude is just a question mark. So I don't even know what you call this track. But this is one of my favorite tracks on here also. So this track, I don't even think that there's really much in terms of like verses. I think there is maybe 1 or 2 verses on this, but more important than the verses is the music. So this track was produced by Domi and JD, which I had only ever heard of Domi and JD the time that Ariana Grande did a music show with Adult Swim, and she did a cover of Them Changes by Thundercat, and Domi and JD were playing instruments in the performance. I know I'm really talking about a whole different side of music than some of y'all are listening to probably. Well, not really. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Thundercat. And a lot of you should be very familiar with Them Changes, because Them Changes was very popular on TikTok for a hot minute. But anyway, Domi and JD are I want to say they are drums and piano duo. One of them is French, one of them is American. And they do like really jazzy kind of model jazz mixed with neo soul type of music, which is a very cool ass sound. They perform with Anderson .Paak, which was on Indigo. Anderson .Paak was on Indigo. Also, he's a member of Silk Sonic, if you want to know who Anderson .Paak is, if you need a better reference. But they perform with Thundercat, Anderson .Paak, a lot of that kind of scene, that soul hip-hop scene. And they have an album called Not Tight, which I really enjoy. So if you want to look that up, it's Domi, D-O-M-I, and J-D, J-D. And yeah, they produced this track and it's really, really nice. I really like the sound. It's more relationship talk. Basically, he's telling this girl, like, you know, I hope that in your memory, I am one of the best of your failed relationships. So he's like, of all the gravestones in your memory, I hope I'm your favorite, is what he says. And, you know, going back to the very second song, Nuts, again, with the relationship talk, like, you know, things didn't end well. Or at least if they didn't end well because they ended pretty much. But I hope that, you know, when you think about me, you don't think about me in a way like, oh, he ruined my fucking life. I should have never fucked with him in the first place. Hopefully your memory of me is like, oh, that didn't work out, but we had a good time. You know, I hope he's doing well. I hope that his life goes on like mine does. And I think about that with K-pop. I do. Not that he's thinking about it this way, but I'm thinking about it this way. There's so many people who talk about why they're not into K-pop anymore. And there are a few people who, when they talk about why they're not into K-pop anymore, they're very aggressive and like angry about their K-pop phase. And I've never understood that. I've never understood how liking K-pop damaged someone's life. I can understand if somebody said that, you know, I like K-pop during a time when BTS wasn't so popular and I got teased for liking K-pop, or I lived in a conservative community and me liking K-pop made me an outcast because people thought it was stupid, or, you know, I gamed with a bunch of guys and guys are always picking on girls who like K-pop, stuff like that, right? But K-pop itself didn't do that to you. Stupid people around you did that to you. And so having such a anger about liking K-pop is crazy to me, because K-pop didn't hurt you. Now, granted, there are a lot of fandom activities that can be harmful. There are a lot of things that fans are encouraged to do that aren't the greatest, like spending hundreds of dollars on albums instead of spending money on stuff that could benefit you more, spending a lot of your social media time engaging in fan wars because these record labels never stand up and say stop that shit. You know, I could see not liking that. But there was this one person on Twitter who I responded to them because they were talking about how, like, this person got on TikTok and was saying how they don't like new boy bands because the members are so young and that they thought that K-pop was turning them into a pedophile. Somebody said that on TikTok, because they were crushing on a member of a new group and then found out that that member was 17 and they thought that person was 20. And they said K-pop is turning them into a pedophile, which, that's such a wild, bonkers, cuckoo thing to say, right? But the person that I was responding to was like, you bitches is weird. Like, you should not be feeling this way. You should be liking K-pop for the music. And I responded saying, you know, I don't disagree with you. I think you're right. But also, K-pop markets itself to emphasize these parasocial relationships. They emphasize the shipping. They make you want these guys. The dancing can sometimes be very suggestive. The poses can be very much kind of like the skinship and the teasing and all those things. They market the attractiveness of these idols. And so somebody saying that, you know, I got into K-pop because I can crush on different individuals or they fulfill my fantasy of who I'm attracted to, it's not right to say it out loud, but they're not wrong in feeling that way because that is the way this is marketed. But there's a big difference between saying K-pop markets young guys for women to be attracted to versus saying K-pop has turned me into a pedophile. No, sis, K-pop's not turning you into a pedophile. If you find yourself attracted to young boys, you need to look at you. Because I've said it before. I think I said it maybe 3 or 4 videos ago. Part of what has kept me from really being into a lot of these younger boy bands is because they're really young, and I just don't feel right coming on the internet talking about how much I love a group of teenagers. Like, it doesn't feel good to me. That's the reason why when NCT Dream debuted, it took me years to listen to their music, because I'm like, these boys still have their wisdom teeth. So, you know, I think when people look at their time in K-pop with these super negative opinions and about how K-pop was so destructive and terrible for them, I really just have to ask, like, are you sure it's not because there's something going on with you? Because my adoration of K-pop is only been a positive to me. I will only look at my time with K-pop with fondness, because I met really good friends, I met really nice people, I got to listen to some incredible music, I got to see some really amazing videos, I've had access to some of the best media packaging the world has ever seen. Like, some of these albums really were made by geniuses when it comes to media packaging. So I look at K-pop very fondly, and so it really feels like it's a personal problem if you look at K-pop as being like the destructing factor in your life. Like, girl, grow up. But yeah, that is a thing that I just wanted to talk about. Also, I was trying to describe what this interlude sounds like. This was the best description I could give you. If you're an American and you used to watch Adult Swim, and you remember how they used to have like these sound kind of video bumps between shows on Adult Swim, this is what that song sounds like. Like the Adult Swim interstitial bumps. So yeah, there's that. All right, we're on to the next song. The next song is Groin, which I remember thinking, like, Groin is an odd name for a song, because people are going to think about what's in the groin area if you talk about a song being called Groin. But then I got it. Basically, this is a Suck My Dick track, but he can't name a song Suck My Dick, so it's called Groin. So after listening to the song for a hot minute, I finally got it. But yeah, Groin, I think this must have been filmed in the UK. Somewhere in like the UK, Ireland, that area, because it looks very much like walking down the street in one of these small villages in the UK. But yeah, it's basically him dissing other rappers, saying, you know, get off my dick. And the track itself has a very boom bap rap kind of old school sound. So yeah, it's okay. It's okay, but it's not a song that I could find myself going back to a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people who are gonna like the, you know, fuck it up, bitch, fuck it up, bitch. There's a lot of people who like that part of the song, but yeah, I just don't, this song is not for me. This song is not for me. Even though there is a line in this song that I found very interesting that says, making money for a guy I don't like. And when I was looking up this song, there was a story on Rap Genius. I don't know if this story is real or not, because this is not anything I've ever read about before or anything I know about, because I don't follow BTS like that. But apparently, Rapmon had gone to Japan and had gone to visit a Buddhist temple at one point. And the monk who ran the temple, like, did an interview where he talked about everything that Rapmon had talked to him about during his visit to the temple. And I guess Rapmon felt like it was a real invasion of his privacy. But because, of course, him being a celebrity, he can't be like, you know, this guy is a fucking stan and I can't believe he'd spread all my business out there in the street. Instead, he was like, it's really regrettable that I could not have private time. And then he erased like all of the evidence that he'd ever visited that temple from his Instagram. And so the line about making money for a guy I don't like, I can't help but think that maybe he's saying to himself, like, you know, this guy invaded my privacy. I really hate this person for exposing me to the public like that. And people are going to go to this temple because I went to this temple. So I'm making money for a guy that I don't like. So I thought that was interesting that somebody made that correlation on the Genius website. But also, like, you know, if you want to take it a little bit broader, a little bit more direct, you could be talking about Bang Shi-hyuk, because Bang Shi-hyuk is out here courting fucking Africa VJs. So who knows? So next we're going to go to Heaven. Now, Heaven, the girlies on Genius had no clue. Like, they were arguing in the Genius annotations about what this song might mean. And I was reading the conflicting opinions about this song, and I'm like, yeah, neither of these are helping me, so I really don't feel like I can use them as a reference point from my interpretation. But my interpretation was this: Rapmon has ascended, but maybe in a not in a way that people would expect, and they keep pulling him down. So the song has a very kind of shoegazy, 80s kind of indie rock sound, if I could explain it. Like, I don't know how best to describe the sound, but very, I don't know how to describe the sound, but very kind of like dream pop sounding, dream pop shoegazy rock sound. And this song is sung, so that's the vibe. But yeah, like, the things that bring peace to you and I are probably things that do not bring the same level of peace to them. You know, this is probably one of the things where, you know, we think that the thing that they would like the most is A. And they're like, I have access to A all the time. The thing that would make me feel the best is B. And maybe by me attempting to be at B, you don't see that as being helpful to me. But for me, this is what I need. This is what brings me inner peace. So yeah, the girlies really don't know what this is about. And the lyrics are fairly vague on this. So yeah, I don't want to put too much meaning on this song, but I really did like the sound of this song, and I think On the Album is the only song that, in my opinion, sounds like this. So I really enjoyed this track. It was a nice kind of departure from the more industrial, jazzy, avant-garde hip-hop sounds we were going through. So let's keep going. Next is Lost. And Lost, I feel kind of bad for RM when it comes to Lost, because I remember the first time I saw the video for Lost, I remember thinking the same thing that 1,000 other people thought was, this looks like the Earthquake video from Tyler, the Creator. Because Tyler, the Creator has on this like blonde Dorothy Hamilton wig, and at the beginning of the Lost video, there is a Korean lady with a blonde Dorothy Hamill bob wig, and so it does seem very similar. And also, the video takes place with these two kind of announcer people announcing the next performance, and RM is the next performer, right? And so he is in a maze, and then all of a sudden he ends up in the under maze of a office building, and he's in all these offices, and he's lost in this maze, and then the people who work in this office have to help him escape the maze, but in escaping the maze he ends up back on the stage. That's what the video is like, and it is very kind of absurdist. It's very kind of, the vibe, once he leaves the stage and goes down into the maze, the vibe very much reminds me of Everything Everywhere All at Once. It has that kind of vibe to it. But the song itself is really, really cool. Like, this song is a sound that a lot of people aren't doing currently, but people used to do a lot. It's very electronic drum and bass, which is one of my favorite genres. I love drum and bass percussion. And so I really like the backing track. I liked the vocal effect they put on his voice where he's talking about, I feel so lost. And it's a little kid going, I feel so lost, live for the low, low, low. I thought that was cute. I thought that was adorable. Both Rapmon and Taehyung have used really cool special effects for a lot of their albums, which I like that a lot. But yeah, I feel bad because on first watch of the video for Lost, it very much feels like Earthquake, but they go in very different directions not that long after the intro. So it's kind of an unfair comparison. But yeah, the song is really cool. It's just about feeling free at the club. Like, really and truly, it is him at the club saying, you know, I do the same things every day. I go through all these emotions day to day. Like, I just sometimes feel like I kind of catch sight of the ground. I lose sight of the ground because I'm constantly being moved waking up in hotel rooms, waking up in different countries, different cities. Like, nothing is consistent except for the fact that I'm there. And so sometimes it's nice to go to a club and be lost intentionally. Like, go to a club and drink and dance and hang out and not necessarily have an objective or an aim or a goal that has to turn into a deliverable. You know, I'm just there kind of feeling it, having a time, hanging with my friends, letting it go. Whereas, you know, a lot of times in my day-to-day when I'm not at the club, it is very much like I'm lost, but I still have all these deliverables, I still have all these goals, I still have all these end products that need to be produced. So yeah, if I could compare this song sound to anything, because I did say how like drum and bass, electronic drum and bass, this song reminds me the most of a video game. It's got that very frantic, kinetic energy sound that video game music has, like early, I would say late 80s, early 90s video game music. So that was fun. It's a fun track, and I think people would really like it. Also, I just want to say, I know y'all are commenting, and I don't want you to think I'm ignoring your comments, because I'm really not, but I notice like y'all are talking to each other, and so I don't want to jump into the middle of your conversations, okay? So just put that out there, and I will do my best that I can later on. But yeah, I wanted to say I'm not ignoring you. I don't want to be here for 2 hours. that's what I'm trying to say. I don't want to be here for 2 hours. I need to get through this, because we're literally just on track 9. Thank you. Next, track 9 is Around the World in a Day. And if you have not listened to music that is over 20 years old, you may not get the reference, but Around the World in a Day is a album by Prince. And it actually has one of my favorite Prince songs of all time on that album, Raspberry Beret. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that song. I'm assuming you have, but if you're under the age of 30, you may not have heard that song. And if you've never heard Raspberry Beret, please, after we have this discussion, go listen to it. Because it's just a really, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a really quirky, cool, rock and roll take on like Mozart. I don't know if that makes sense, but like imagine like very Baroque Vienna style music, but then rock and roll, you know. So that's the vibe of Raspberry Ray. And like, of course, it's got like a really cool chorus. I will sing a little bit for you. I don't have the best voice, but it's serviceable. She wore a raspberry beret, the kind you find in a secondhand store. Raspberry Beret. Anyway, so this song is called Around the World in a Day, and it features the vocalist Moses Sumney, who I never really listened to a lot of Moses Sumney, but if you watch The Idol, which was that show that The Weeknd did on HBO last summer, Moses Sumney was the lone black guy in that show that was not The Weeknd or the guy at the Beverly Hills Boutique, because there were not many black men in that show. But yeah, Moses Sumney, gorgeous, tall, built, dark-skinned black man, super hot, super hot. But he is also a very talented singer, and in this song his vocals sound very, very much like Prince, and matched really well with RM's rapping voice. Like, RM's rapping voice, he has a more throaty, kind of deeper voice, and then Moses Sumney, by sounding a lot like Prince and using like falsetto and that kind of thing, a really nice collaboration, a really nice sound cohesion there that I appreciated. But yeah, the track itself has a lot of rock guitar, but it's very spare, which is kind of a notable thing in Prince's oeuvre. Like, if you look back on Prince and you listen to a song like When Doves Cry, very spare, but very, very effective. Anyway, this one, the interpretation that I wrote was, the past is full of horrible, wrong things that we did and allowed to be done to us. But we can't be us without that baggage. Not that it's been easy to overcome, but losing the self, ego death, allows us to see how far we are from who we used to be. So basically, like, it's him saying, you know, Well, it's called Around the World in a Day. And if you think about his career, he's literally been around the world. And I bet there are times when he's been around the world in 24 hours. Flights and everything else. But there are times when living that life and being that high visibility and having celebrity, bad things have happened. There have been times when people have probably taken advantage of him. There have been times when people have probably, started controversies and had really negative things to say. There have been times when probably he struggled with even deciding whether or not he can continue to do this. But in getting through it, he's arrived from where he was 10 years ago to where he is today. And he can't be the rap mon we know now if he hadn't been the rap monster he was back then. And I keep calling him rap mom, but RM is what he prefers to be called. So, on the one hand, it's a very hectic life. It is not always sunshine and rainbows. And yeah, a lot of us like to think, it'd be nice if we didn't have to go through these traumatic experiences, these sad experiences, these losses. But if we didn't go through them, who would we be? Who would we be if we hadn't gone through them? And that's real. That is a real thing that we all kind of have to grapple with. I think about my life, my early life. I've lived in Europe before. I've lived in Texas. I now live here in the state of Colorado. And in all the places that I traveled, I got to experience different aspects of humanity. And there have been times when I've been in these places and I didn't feel like I belonged. When I lived in southern Texas, where it's large Hispanic communities and I didn't speak Spanish, I sometimes felt like, I'm an outsider looking in. But I learned a lot from looking into these cultures. I learned that, the perception of life and the moral system that I was raised in taught me that my opinion was right all the time. But if I hadn't had a chance to go to these places where I didn't speak the language, where I wasn't an immediate part of the cultural group, I couldn't have empathy for different perspectives and different moral compasses. And there are a lot of times when, by being an American in the middle of Europe, I saw where that American imperialist attitude was fucking wrong. There were times living in Texas where I got to see the way that people in those cities don't kick their kids out at 18 and expect them to all of a sudden be a grown-up overnight, where it was not uncommon for family to live together for years. And growing up where I grew up, you were expected to be getting a job, getting an apartment, getting out the house at 18. So it was just nice to have those experiences under my belt, because I feel like it made me a more open-minded person. It made me a person with a lot more empathy for other people, and it made me more willing to embrace other cultures and try to see the world from their point of view, rather than assuming that my point of view is always the correct way to view things. And so, yeah, it sucks to go through your teens and feel like an outcast because you're not a part of the culture that you live in. It sucks to go through your really younger years and feel scared of your environment because no one around you speaks the same language. But then you gain confidence and you learn how to navigate. And now you can kind of drop me off in any city in the United States and I don't feel lost, because I know how to keep it low key. I know how to look out for myself, and I am able to fake a confidence to move through spaces. And so I couldn't be the person I am, the confidence I have, the empathy I have, if I had not gone through these times of conflict and times of sadness and times of, kind of moral dilemma. So yeah, I don't know. I sympathize. Okay, we're down to the last two, guys. We're almost there. So the 10th track is, I think it's Yu is the Korean, but in the English track list, it's called Credit Roll. This music video and song is an ode to the people who watch the credits at the end of a movie or a music video, which is funny because I watched the credits for the music video Lost before I saw the music video for Credit Roll, and I'm like, oh, he's talking about me. But basically it's like, do you watch the credits? Are you the kind of person who wants to know how the sausage is made? Are you the kind of person who maybe has questions for what you saw and you're looking at the credits to get those answers? Because, you know, we can put the success or the failure of an album on the shoulders of the singer or the rapper. But there's so many people who are a part of what makes a project successful. There's so many people who do production work behind the scenes, who play instruments behind the scenes. There are so many people who are there making sure that like there's comfort and there's food and there's costuming and all this other stuff. And the only time that those people are ever really recognized in the creation of the things that we love is in the credits. And traditionally, most music videos don't have credits. Unless we're talking about like Grammy nominations, stuff like that, then maybe we get a little behind the scenes stuff. But most music videos, they start, they finish, no credits. And so a lot of times, if something is a wild success, we never really credit anyone but the person out front. And RM saying, like, do you watch the credits? Like, do you know that I worked on this song with one of my good friends? Do you know what other people I work with to create this sound whose voices you don't hear on these tracks? Like the next track, he worked with Yucko. And you can't listen to that song and immediately be like, oh yeah, Yucko's here if you don't see his name. But if you look at the credits and you're like, who's singing in the back saying come back to me, and that's when you're like, oh yeah, that's Yucko right there. So I don't know, I think it was a nice shout out to all the people who are like the unsung heroes behind what makes these albums come into fruition. So that's all. It's not that serious. And then the last song, like I mentioned, is Come Back to Me, which if you watch the music video for that, this music video I wrote is the multiverse of relationships RM could be in and eventually accepting where he landed. And when I was listening to this song, my very first thought the first time I heard this song was like, this song sounds like Sex and Candy. I don't know how else to say it. There is a song from, I want to say the 90s, early 2000s. The song's like, I smell sex and candy. Yeah. This song to me sounds like that song, except for it's got like whistling in it. But Yucko, who is, he's kind of a Korean indie rock artist. I have a couple Yucko albums in my collection. He is the person that RM worked very closely on with this song, and you can tell it's got a kind of like Beatles rock stripped down type of sound. It's different, but he sings on this song. RM sings on this song, and in the video he's sitting on a couch at a party, and he gets up from the couch, and all of a sudden he's in all of these different rooms with all these different situations. In one room, he's brushing his teeth with his wife and his daughter. And the next one, him and his girlfriend are getting in an argument right before they're supposed to go out to eat. And then there's one scenario where there is a woman who looks to be maybe in her late 20s, early 30s, and he and her are dressed in very similar outfits. And they're kind of chasing each other through this maze of situations until they finally end up together. And there's a lyric in there saying you're my pain divine, which in all of these different relationships, they all are like good and bad. Each relationship is shown kind of having different aspects to it. And so it's like, yeah, there are times when I fuck up. There are times when maybe you're not nice to me. But at the end of the day, you know, there's a lot of love here. And the love that's here makes it to where this is where I want to be. Where I'm at right now is where I want to be, because being where I'm at and feeling loved and feeling like this relationship is the right place for me to be makes me feel comfortable in every other setting I'm in. I can move through the world with confidence, knowing that what we have right here is the best place to be. And so, yeah, that is the end of the album, and I really, really enjoyed this album. RPWP is my favorite Rap Mom project, and I know that, like, again, y'all were talking back and forth and I wasn't interrupting that, but a lot of you were like, I like Mono better, I like ABC better. I think we all agree Indigo wasn't that strong. But I think what I really, really liked about this project, other than the fact that, like, he was very free with curse words, I like the fact that this project was very cohesive. Like, absolutely, this was a relationships album. so it was themed in that direction. But also, like, there were a lot of influences that were present on this album that were influences but not copies. And I think that's what I like the most out of this one. I feel like in Indigo, a couple of the songs there felt more like, I wouldn't say like direct copies, but definitely like somebody saying, now's my opportunity to do my version of. Whereas this album definitely more felt like, this is my example of how this thing influenced me. Does that make any sense? Like, for instance, Around the World in a Day. That's probably the best example I could use. Around the World in a Day may have been influenced by Prince, and he has someone on the track who sounds like Prince, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he's copying Prince, because the song doesn't sound like a Prince song in the whole way through. Like, RM's not trying to sound like Prince, but he does have someone who does vocals that are in the style of Prince, and the song is named after Prince. That is an influence, but he's not making a Prince song, he's making an RM song influenced by Prince. And I like that. I like that a lot. And, you know, same thing with Heaven. You know, it's a very shoegazy dream pop sound. That's his version of that. It's not him trying to recreate somebody else's whatever. And I really enjoy that. I think this is an album that if RM didn't make this album, I would still enjoy this album. If it was made by somebody else, I would still enjoy this album. And to me, that is a high compliment. It doesn't sound like a high compliment, but it really is. Because, you know, not for nothing, when you have favorites, it's easy to like a project if your favorite person does it. Like, if Taemin comes up with an album, it's really easy for me to love it off first listen, because I love Taemin, I love Shiny, I like his voice. All the positives are there before we even get to the content, right? And so sometimes there are things that I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily love this if this wasn't my bias. This is an album where I absolutely can say without a doubt, if this was not RM, if this was some new person out there that they were trying to introduce to the scene, I would still really enjoy this album. And I can't say that for everything that even RM has done. To be honest with you, not even everything that he's done can I say that too. So this was a success in my book, and I was very tempted to buy this album. Super duper tempted. But I didn't buy this album because I'm on a no buy, and I have been on a no buy, and I can't break it for him. I'm already very tempted to break it for Taemin. I probably will buy Taemin's light stick. I'm not even gonna lie to you about that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this project. I'm still going to do a video talking about the other solo stuff that has come out of the BTS camp since everyone went into enlistment. But I don't want to talk about that here because I still need to write down some notes and thoughts, because I listen to a lot of music, guys. I listen to a lot of music. J-Hope had his whole project come out. Jimin had his latest project come out. V had a song come out. There's just been stuff, and that's in between me listening to all of the other projects of all the other people. Also in between me like having to get rid of my faves. Like, literally just this morning, I'm not even kidding you, just this morning I was on the TikToks, as I want to do, and I found out that Hyolyn visited IDF soldiers. And I was disgusted. Like, to my bones, I felt like I had a nasty burp coming up because I was so disgusted. Because I have loved Hyolyn down. Like, those of you who have been watching my channel for a while, I was a huge Hyolyn fan when Sistar was still an actively promoting group. And when Sistar stopped being an actively promoting group, I loved Hyolyn through Dolly and the creation of Bride Enterprises, or whatever the name of her label is. Like, I have loved Hyolyn down. So to hear, not only was she one of the people who went to Hyuna's album release party, but that apparently her, Sihwan, and Eric Nam have visited IDF soldiers, I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on here, but why? What? Why? And at first I'm like, well, maybe this TikTok creator is saying this, but this is not a truth. But then I went into the comments, people were like, yeah, people don't give enough smoke to them. Because basically the creator of the TikTok was like, people give so much smoke to so many about Starbucks, but no one cares about idols who literally visit IDF soldiers. And they listed Shiwan, Eric Nam, and Hyolyn. And you already know, I don't like Eric Nam. Never have, probably never will. And Shiwan, honestly, get fucked. But Hyolyn, again, like I said, I have loved on this lady for so long. And I had just watched the video for Wait not that long ago. And I'm like, all right, Hyolyn's back in her dolly bag. Let's get it. Now I'm just like, ah, fuck. 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 But yeah, you just never know. You just never know. You just never know. You never know what the wind will bring to your faves. But yeah, I don't want to talk about all those people. I wanted to keep it to here. Thank you guys for watching this review. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you enjoyed this review, go ahead and leave a like. I don't normally ask for likes, but you know, this is one of those times when I'm asking for likes because literally I feel like maybe this is not what you guys sign up for when it comes to watching me, and I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily want to do this again if this is like content that people are like, no, don't go here, do something else. But yeah, I enjoy drifting off into an album from time to time, so I thought it would be fun to do like a full track by track album review. And I don't know, that's it. That's all I got. Thank you guys, and thank you for watching. Thank you for talking to each other. One day we're gonna have to do a live stream where you guys come hang out with me, because I have heard that you can invite people to join your lives, and I've never done that before, but I've been really seriously thinking about doing that. Like I have really seriously thought about inviting you guys to do the lives with me on my channel, just so I can have a conversation with you, so that I don't seem like a crazy person. Because I saw a TikTok where these people were dragging this influencer for pretending to be on a podcast, but she was literally just talking to a wall, but had the camera angle, so they were like, you know, and that's why, as for me and my household, if you come at my children, you're coming at the will of the Lord, because I've got the Lord on my back and he protects us. You know what I'm saying, girl? And there's no one there. Like, I sometimes feel like that's me. I feel like sometimes, like, I'm talking to you as if, like, I'm talking to a person and there's no one there. And so, yeah, I feel crazy sometimes when I'm doing these live streams. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I feel like I stumble over my words. I feel like I make a lot of mistakes because I'm doing it live with limited notes. And so, yeah. Good feedback is always appreciated, or just feedback in general, so I can like course correct if things are getting a little bit too wacky. But yeah, thank you guys so much. It's been like almost an hour and a quarter. I appreciate you. I always do. And I will talk to you later. Bye. See, I can't even